Thank you guys for joining us today. This is the fourth episode of our Career Speaker series, and today we're going to be talking about the Alumni Global Experiences. It's a special edition because it's in line with the International Education Week. We have a campaign running right now as well at Absolute, but I will talk about it a little bit more later on. So today I am joined by Inara Wissanji, who is an alumni. She did the Lisbon program in 2019. Evgjenia, she did an internship in Barcelona, and then she did it remotely for another 3 months this year. And she joined Absolute Internship as well. So she's a proud member. She's our amazing admissions coordinator, and she wants to share her experience as well, doing it in person and remotely. Today, we will be focusing on the challenges in living abroad. What does it mean? Not only, working abroad, but also studying abroad, how to adapt to new business cultures, and what is the difference between international versus domestic internships. The first question I want to ask Jenny. Well, guys, do you want to introduce yourself? Sorry, I completely skipped this part.
Yes, totally. I can go ahead first. So I'm Evgjenia. I'm originally from Albania. However, I spent my childhood in Greece. I was born and raised there, and then I moved back to Albania to continue my other studies, and then decided to continue my undergraduate in Sweden. So I actually graduated from international economics in Jönköping International Business School, which is located in Sweden. And I'm currently taking a gap year between bachelor's and master's, and I'm living in Germany. So during this time, I've had the opportunity to live in 5 different countries so far. And this amazing internship abroad is what I really want to share with everyone. So yes, I actually did my exchange semester in Germany, which adds up to the list of countries that I've been living and studying at. And then I chose to do my internship in Barcelona. I worked there as a business development intern. And then I actually worked for Absolute Internship itself as a remote intern during the summer. And I'm proud to say now that I'm an admissions coordinator for Absolute Internship. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information. Inara, your turn.
Yeah, hi, I'm Inara. I am Kenyan born, and I was raised between Kenya and Tanzania. And then when I was 15, I moved to boarding school in Switzerland. And after I graduated, I chose to do my internship in Lisbon in events management and planning. And now I'm studying in the UK, doing my bachelor's in liberal arts, and I'm in my second year doing it remotely from Kenya.
That's amazing. So you both have actually experiences in remote internships. How does it feel right now, just before we start everything, doing it remotely?
Yes, actually, many people are asking me, how do you feel? And what I answer is that remote work is actually my new normal. So I can't really imagine myself working on site anymore. But yes, it is an amazing experience. You don't really get the chance to work for companies, and you do have the chance to do that remotely. So that's a plus. And yeah, I can say that I'm very happy that I chose to do this. I will never say no to this opportunity, no.
That's great. How about you, Inara?
Well, so I'm not interning, I'm just doing my university right now. I think there's pros and cons to all of it. I definitely miss university life. I miss not living at home with my parents, but it's been a really good experience. I think it's a lot easier to focus and get things done when you're just on your own and have your own space. So
yeah, you have a little bit more focus. Okay, thank you guys so much. I will go back to the very first question, as I said. This question I would like to ask Jenny. What were your biggest challenges when pursuing this international lifestyle? You already told us about, where you lived, which is really impressive.
And so actually being an international student is definitely a challenge, especially at the beginning of this journey, when you barely know yourself and let alone a completely new culture. So having traveled from Albania to Sweden, there was definitely a culture shock. Mediterranean culture, which is the place where I grew up, tends to be more extroverted and expressive. And Scandinavian lifestyle, on the other hand, is the complete opposite, where people tend to be very reserved and laid back, and they mind their own business, which I really love. And the second challenge was communication, adding on to what I was saying about the differences in mentality, communication, also language barriers, and even body language are some characteristics that do differ a lot. Actually, I'm going to say that I'm not really unlucky because Sweden people speak, 90% of them speak English, which is an advantage. And the city I lived in was quite international, but still there were some difficulties. For example, going to the supermarket, not understanding the shop signs and the food product labels, and being scared to ask because of the embarrassment was, of course, an obstacle. And I want to share actually a fun fact with you about that. So the first word that I actually learned in Swedish was rea. So rea means sales. And of course, for every student, discounts are the most important. So yeah, I really learned this word, was the first thing I learned. And going back to the third challenge, which is, of course, homesickness. I was only 17 years old when I went for an international education abroad. So of course it was very difficult and I did not really have friends that I could share my experience with. And I questioned myself. I was like, oh my God, why did I do this to myself? Why did I choose to go abroad? However, after making new friends and traveling several times during the year back home, I think it was not a challenge anymore. So yeah, I think it was my top ones.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think homesickness is something that we can all share, this experience of living abroad. But in the end, it's beautiful if you're in it and you see yourself growing, and especially when you come back home to your family or friends, they see the transformation that you went through and that you got more confident and you know how to do decisions now on your own, because you trust yourself, because you were pushed kind of through this. Do you want to add anything to this, Inara, or should I go for the next question?
Yeah, no, I think I pretty much feel the same way as Jenny. I think we, as students who go to countries where especially the language was definitely the hardest for me. I went from English and Kiswahili to German, and German is a very difficult language, Swiss German especially. So I think, yeah, the challenges will always, I think, be the same for everyone. But we get through it.
We have to, exactly. The second question would be talking about, internships. Inara, you did it in Lisbon. Jenny, you did it in Barcelona and then also remotely, and you probably did also other internships in different countries. How did you adapt to these new working environments, and did you encounter any cultural shocks? Jenny, do you want to start?
Yes, definitely. So of course, a culture shock is something present everywhere you go. I mean, for myself, even though I say that I've lived in 5 different countries and I'm kind of used to intercultural skills and talking to a diverse range of people, there's always a first time. So there's always that feeling of being a stranger, of feeling insecure and feeling disconnected. However, I think that everyone should know that this is totally normal. And what I try to do is actually stick to like 3 basic factors and that I always, think about, and I keep them on my mind to be able to move forward. So I would say, first of all, is over communication. Everywhere I talk about this topic, I think communication is so important. It's extremely important. And as a junior employee, I always have dilemmas. Of course, I'm not aware of all the details, so I just have to ask questions and make sure I receive feedback, which is very important. And kind of understand that not being proud of everything is maybe good sometimes, to just ask questions and go for it. And this helped me to kind of grow in a faster way and to make this learning process even faster by giving myself space to make mistakes, because it's normal. And then another thing is to understand the big picture all the time. So if you keep in mind what are the core values of the company you're working at, or if you're a student, what the core values of the course you're studying are, you kind of give yourself that space and you let yourself learn more and deliver the tasks accordingly. So I think that's what I can say and I can share with you about the culture shocks. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So Inara, I mean, born and raised in Kenya, correct? Then studying in Switzerland, which is like already what a culture shock is that, like it's incredible. But how did you feel doing your internship in Lisbon? I imagine that, Lisbon is not like like the people are not talking English as well as maybe in Stockholm, probably. How did you feel there?
To be honest, I loved Lisbon. I felt culture-wise, it was very similar to where I grew up. Also climate-wise, which was great for me. But no, in Lisbon, I didn't really feel the same way I felt when I was in Switzerland. I felt very happy, free, open. I wasn't really concerned about anything aside from the language, but I felt Portuguese was a little bit easier to pick up. And also, if you do try speak Portuguese, a lot of the time people will realize that you don't, and they'll speak English to you. So, and I felt that was very nice and welcoming, and that helped me assimilate, I guess.
That's nice. So, in what way was Lisbon really similar to your home country? Could you elaborate on this a bit more?
Yeah, I think it's just the people and the culture, they're just very open. Everything is about food and having a good time. For example, a lot of people who I was interning with were from the States, and they were so shocked to hear about like the time we start work, the fact that we have an hour or even more for lunch break, that you can go out for drinks with your colleagues. But that's very much how it is here as well. We're hardworking, but we enjoy our free time and playtime as well, I guess.
Yeah, this sounds like the south of Europe, exactly.
Yeah.
Enjoying your life while, working very hard.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing your experience in Lisbon as well. The next question is, and this is in line with our International Education Week at Absolute. We want to know how you showed resilience in your life or in your academic life. Jenny?
So yeah, sure, I can start. So the most important time where I had to show resilience was actually during the first exam season. So when I first joined university and during the last one, because during the last one, I actually had to work on my thesis virtually, and I had to do the thesis with a partner, which meant that we had to do everything remotely, virtually. So that's why I'm saying that remote has been my new normal, even for the academic and my professional life, which of course, I'm not going to lie, is not the best, but it's something that everyone has had to adapt with. And so what I've been doing is always expressing my frustration. Of course, in a mature manner and in a cultural way, but it's still well to like get out this feeling of overwhelmingness. And this helped me a lot to stay more productive during my studies and during my professional life as well. And I'm a quite systematic person, so I always try to keep my tasks organized, to have a Google Calendar where I have my tasks, I have my deadlines, so I'm able to kind of track and understand where I am at to achieve my goal. And another thing is rewarding myself, especially during these times where you do not really have many space to express yourself. The isolation is something everyone has had to cope with. Rewarding yourself, always staying with your friends and having a fun time inside, if you can't do that outside, is very important to keep feeling motivated and to have more initiative for the future. And then another thing is, of course, having the big picture. So asking yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? How much effort do you have to invest in order to achieve this goal? And why is it important to accomplish it? What happens if you don't accomplish it? So it's good to have like this in mind and ask yourself all the time, so you are aware of your circumstances and of your progress as well.
Thank you for your answer. You sound like you fit in Germany, actually, super organized. Love to hear that. How about you, Inara? How did you show resilience in the academic life?
I think for me, it was definitely my transition from Kenya to Switzerland. That was in 10th grade. Not only was I transitioning from the American system to the IB, but also from a very conservative Christian school to a super international, very liberal, I would say, school. And also just having to explain, the world that I came from and see the world that I was living in now. It was very different in so many ways, and it was difficult to explain sometimes. I also moved because I was struggling with some mental and physical health issues. So all of that together was difficult, but I knew that I wanted to get my IB diploma, and that I was so privileged to be going to school where I was. And so I just kind of had to keep my mental health up and do what I could, get my degree, and then yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Actually, I'm glad that you went through it and went for this adventure. Trusting in yourself that you have to go through this. I think this made you also yourself really strong. So you feel even more brave to, I don't know, go for the next international adventure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I ended up loving it, and I don't ever want to stop living abroad, moving around. So it was good for me. Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate more about what kind of culture shock you experienced? I mean, you went to a very international school in Switzerland, so I understand that you spoke English during the courses and with your classmates as well. But how was it living in Switzerland compared to Kenya?
It was, I mean, there's a lot. When I was in high school there, we lived on a mountain. We were quite isolated. We were living in a small Swiss German speaking town. And outside of school, people were very closed off, reserved, as the Swiss and Germans are. And like Jenny was saying earlier when she was responding, the whole being afraid to ask and not being able to speak the language. And there is, I guess, a feeling of judgment you get when you're surrounded by all of these people who have no idea who you are. What else? I think the good part was definitely, seeing efficient transport, public transport systems. You can go down to France for the weekend, all that kind of thing, which you definitely cannot do here. Here you're, driving in a car by yourself every day. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I can definitely echo this, being afraid to start speaking in the language that you're, in the country that you're living in. I'm also just learning Catalan, living here in Barcelona, but I think the best reaction that you can get if you're trying and they see that you're a foreigner is just a smile, they see that you're trying, and that's really rewarding to see. Thank you very much, both of you, for sharing this. Okay, these are going to be the last two questions. I want to ask you, why did you actually choose to do an international internship instead of a domestic one, if you even have experiences with domestic internships? Jenny, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was first of all because I love traveling, and I love have an attraction for foreign culture, which is of course the main factor that drove me into going abroad and studying and interning abroad at the same time. I think that staying isolated, especially during my 20s, which I believe are the most fruitful years of my life, I think is not the answer to what I'm trying to achieve for now, at least. And I specifically chose Barcelona because it felt like the perfect escape from the Scandinavian cold lifestyle that I was used to for the last 1 year, which I didn't really like. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and do something different and understand what I really actually love to do and where I actually really want to live. And at the same time, my home country does not offer many opportunities when it comes to professional and academic development at the same time. So this is why I never actually thought of pursuing a career or my academic studies in Albania, unfortunately. And everywhere I go now, I have an advantage where I can share my intercultural experience, and I can talk about what I've learned so far and let everyone else know and learn from what I've learned, and at the same time learn from them, because international experience is something that never really ends. You always learn new things every day. So yeah, and I think the main goal that I have right now is to kind of use all these things that I've learned and implement them to proceed forward, to learn something new, to develop professionally. So.
Oh, that's a really nice answer. Thank you, Jenny. Inara, do you want to elaborate on this a bit?
Yeah, that was a really good answer. I feel like you said everything I wanted to say much better than I would have. um, but yeah, no, it's the same. I've always loved traveling. I've loved experiencing different cultures, but my travel has always been limited to as a tourist. And I really wanted to try something a little bit different, something that would add some extra value, not only to my life, but also to my professional life and what I wanted to do in the future. Um, and I also just wanted to spend a summer being independent, doing whatever I wanted to do, while at the same time having to balance a work life, managing my finances, pushing myself out of my comfort zone every day, making myself socialize, going and doing the grocery shopping, even though I don't even know exactly what I'm buying. And yeah, I chose to do it. So domestically at that point in time would have been in Switzerland. And there I wouldn't have had many opportunities because of the language barrier, and also because they offer the IB in Switzerland, but it's not really recognized as a proper degree. And here in Kenya, it's the same that Jenny was saying about Albania. You can't do the work and academic development thing together. You have to have experience in work to actually get something worthwhile doing here, I think. So it just worked out for the better to go abroad.
Yeah, and it seems like both of you are loving it right now. So I'm glad that you took this big step actually to get out of your comfort zone, as you said, Inara, and discover new cultures and maybe discovering, new sides of you as well, being challenged in on different levels. Okay, so the last question would be for you: did the international internship help you in pursuing your current career, or did it maybe reshift your vision of what you wanted to do, let's say a year or 2 years ago? Because everyone, as a little child, you might say, I want to become a doctor and everything. So maybe this changed your perspective a bit. Jenny, if you want to start.
Yeah, it definitely changes your perspective. I can say that myself is not the same me and 3 years ago or 4 years ago, definitely not. You get to understand what your strengths are, what you really love doing, and not what your parents told you to do, because
Exactly.
this is not what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. That's why I guess it's kind of like a portal, this international experience, to kind of discover what you really like and to exploit your talent, and of course learn your limits. It's very, very important. And yeah, I actually wanted to say something that completely gives an idea of how important an international experience is nowadays. I would say that the world is so globalized that having an international experience in your resume is actually not a plus, but is a requirement. So I can give you an example of a person, of a recruiter holding two resumes side to side, very similar to one another. And of course, he would go for the applicant that, has been abroad, has got his feet wet, has become more agile and more proactive. And of course, he has an advantage in the business environment, which lets you and give you an idea of why you should go for this opportunity, why you should say yes, and to not hesitate. So I think that perfectly concludes the idea, the concept, because if we talk about it and talk about it, is not the same as actually interning and doing it yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jenny. Inara, do you want to share your thoughts about this question?
Yeah, for sure. I agree that in this day and age, definitely doing anything abroad will always put you above someone who hasn't. In terms of career, so I'm not working right now. I did start an organization here in Kenya with some of my friends. Basically, it's called Sounds of the Youth, KE, and we basically started a platform to start a conversation about all of the things that happen in our country that we don't really know about. It was brought about by police brutality, which was triggered by the Black Lives Matter movement earlier this year. And for my internship, I did event planning, which is what I thought I'd always want to do. But my internship showed me that that was not, in fact, the case. I much prefer to be a little bit more behind the scenes. And I got to make some posters promoting some of the events we were doing. And I found that that's what I really liked doing. So I try to, take those skills and put them into the content that I'm now creating for our page. So in that sense, yeah, it did help me in figuring out what I want to do. And aside from that, it definitely helped my personal growth. Skills like communication and time management were things I was really struggling with before I went abroad. And also just, understanding that sometimes you have to be flexible and you're not always going to get what you want or the recognition that you deserve, but you keep pushing and you're going to eventually get there when you're doing what you love. So
exactly. I love the story that you actually rediscovered, your passion, what you actually want to do. For anyone that's interested in Inara's, project or business, I will link this in the follow-up email so you can follow her on Instagram and all the other social media channels. I wanted to follow up on your answer as well. We get like a lot of questions from students asking, what if I don't know in what kind of industry I want to do it? And our co-founders always say, well, then try all of it, or try once, like one at least, and see if you like it. If you don't like it, then you can already cross this out. And I think this is really important, because right now I might be interested in marketing. What's going to be happening in 20 years, like a human being always evolves. So never cross out other opportunities and your passions and anything. So don't be afraid of going for this one internship if you don't know yet if you want to do it in 2 years or not. You're still gonna end up with some experiences. Okay, so this is my share to this. Thank you very much, guys. These are all the questions that I have. For the students that are still online, please feel free to write the questions in the chat box, and panelists will be happy to answer them. In the meantime, I want to be talking about the International Education Week that I talked about in the beginning. So we are rewarding 5 students with a scholarship this month. And we want to know from you guys, how have you shown resilience during 2020? There are going to be 5 different categories where you can submit an essay about how you showed resilience. The 5 categories are: 1, giving back to your community; 2nd, mental well-being; 3rd, encouraging diversity; 4th, persevering with academic studies; and 5th, supporting LGBTQIA+ community. I will send you guys all the information in the follow-up email as well. So please feel free to submit your essay, how you think that you showed resilience. And for anyone who might be uncomfortable of sharing this story with us, we still want to support you, in your professional career. So we're offering a discount called IEW 300, and with this you could save 300 euros for a remote internship. This is a lot of information. Everything will be in the follow-up email, and I think we should start the Q&A now. So please, everyone, if anyone has questions about culture shock, or questions about international internships, how did Jenny do it, like remotely? How was it in Lisbon or Barcelona? Feel free. And thank you guys, Jenny and Inara. The answers were amazing. I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. And Inara, I hope your business is gonna flourish, like we talked offline, and we like it a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So Alondra, oh wait, okay. Santiago asked, could you tell us a bit about paid internships, how to increase my likelihood of getting one? So paid internships, I think it has a lot to do also about, where you do the international internship, in which country. So there are different regulations, laws. For instance, in France, there is a law that internships have to be paid with a minimum wage. So this is quite a generic question. It always depends where you want to do it, and what kind of industry you want to do it. So it's really good to do some research beforehand if you were interested to do one in the US, or if you were interested to do one through Absolute, you can already do some research, or you can apply and we can give you all the information regarding this question. Thank you, Santiago. It's a question that we often receive. Lauren asked us, what did your search look like for the international internships you both had?
For me, it was more about having an experience with a little bit of both worlds, so both traveling and interning and working at the same time. So I was trying to do something that was abroad, of course, in a country that I was never before. This was one of the factors that influenced my decision. And when it came to, and I also wanted to have inclusions such as accommodation and knowing that I was guaranteed an internship placement. And when I found out about Absolute Internship, I think everything fell into place. And that's why I chose it in the first place. And it's actually difficult to do such a decision because, of course, you have to think of it as an investment, especially when you don't really have anyone that has tried it before. And I mean, from my friend network. And it was an experience that I thought was going to be amazing. But yeah, I think the basic thing is to, first of all, know what you want and know what your range of countries probably is, because having, a certain idea in your mind will definitely help you. And but at the same time, be open to new opportunities, because there are students that go for an industry, for example, but then they find out if they do an internship in another type of industry that they actually loved it and it's something that they want to pursue. So definitely always open your horizons and be open to new opportunities.
Thank you, Jenny. Inara, do you also want to say something to that?
It was quite similar for me. I actually knew I wanted to go to Portugal. It was a country that had been on my list for a while. But as I was looking for internships, my first thing was obviously the language. And second, I was like, okay, I'm going to get this placement. Where am I going to live? Who am I going to live with? Am I going to meet people my age, especially, was one. So when I found out about Absolute, I kind of figured that was probably the best way for me to go. They sort out your accommodation, they guarantee you a placement. And you do have a conversation with your coordinator about what exactly it is you're looking for. And they do a pretty good job at matching you with something you're interested in. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Inara. Thank you for this compliment. Yeah, I actually really think, one of our strong suit is as well the networking aspect, because we are getting, young students that are like-minded together where you can chit chat about different things. So, you did event planning, Inara. You could still talk to someone that is doing an engineering internship in Lisbon, so you can exchange and you never know who you're actually going to meet. And you can always create bonds. So you can have friends from China, US, from Russia, who knows where, So I think that's a beautiful thing that we really want to, encourage at Absolute as well.
Yeah, I think that was the best part of my internship, honestly, like the people I was there with, the group I was with, we are all pretty much still friends now, and we talk regularly, and we had so much fun together experiencing a new country all together. So definitely one of the pluses of going with Absolute.
That's amazing. Yeah, life-changing experiences, huh? Okay, one question from Joelle. Can I do a remote internship as a volunteer program? Do you mean a volunteer program as an NGO? Because we do offer internships in a non-profit organizations in our 11 elite cities. So this is definitely possible. So what could be an example of a remote internship at an NGO would be, you could be marketing for them. You could be doing it in a Singaporean NGO. You would know about like the different projects that they're doing. Other examples could be business development, for instance, and all this kind of sort of things. But if you want to have more information about what would suit you best, I would suggest you to apply through Absolute, and you will get contacted by our enrollment team, who will then interview you, and we will hear, what you're mostly interested in, what kind of jobs, tasks you want to do, and then we're gonna try to find the best match for you. But thank you, Joel, for your question. Okay, Tusha asked us, can I get an internship for minimum 12 weeks as per my university? Yes, for sure. As I mentioned, the International Education Week, we are offering this discount or like the scholarships, and our remote internship programs are actually designed for 4 to 12 weeks. I would suggest you to do this because it's right now safer with the whole, COVID situation. But in general, we also offer longer programs, but these would be in person. If you have any more information, you can reach out to me. I will send you my email later on, or you can reply to the follow-up email as well that I will be sending to you guys if you have more questions about this kind of things. Thank you, Tusha, for your question. Thank you guys already for joining us. Again, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Inara, for talking. It was really insightful, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. For everyone else, you will receive an email and more information about the International Education Week. And of course, if you want to follow up with us, if you have more questions, feel free to send me an email or respond to the email. Okay, thank you guys very much. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.